You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. All right, hello everyone. Before we officially dive into today's interview and episode with my client Sherry, I just wanted to really quickly introduce her. Sherry is one of our longtime Backpacking Badass program clients, and I really wanted to bring her on the podcast today to kind of highlight how she got started in her adventure era. This was back in 2020 when she first joined our program, but kind of like a little bit of her backstory and what led her to backpacking, and then how she has continued to recommit to having adventure as a core value in her life and, recommitting again and again to her adventure era and how it has shaped and evolved over the years. So I'm so excited to share more of Sherry's story with you. And if you're listening at the time of when this episode drops, we are currently in the middle. This episode will drop on a Wednesday, and we're in the middle of our annual Your Adventure Era Challenge, which is a 5-day challenge that we host every year to help you step into your very own adventure era. Or if you're one of my existing clients, maybe it's recommitting to your adventure era and whatever that looks like. So we spend 5 days together. We talk about adventure mindset. We talk about planning. We talk about creating your adventurous community. We talk about building strength in your adventure era. And we also talk about those skills that you need to focus on going into 2026 in accordance to your goals. And so you are welcome to join us in that challenge. We have gotten started. We're day 3 in. You can learn more and still sign up at shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. And if you have missed a training session, there are free replays for 48 hours. But if you want to grab the all access pass, it will give you 6 months access to listen to the trainings for longer. So you can grab that all access pass and still participate in the challenge material by going to shedreamsofalpine.com/upgrade. But more importantly, I just want to give this as a heads up and put it on your radar that we are actually getting ready to open enrollment for our Backpacking Badass program. So our Backpacking Badass program is our signature course, community, and coaching program that we host at She Dreams of Alpine to teach you everything that you need to know to become a safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpacker, no matter where you're starting at, what your background is, all the things. We get you ready and get you excited and get you started on this journey with everything that you need to know to always know you have your own back anytime that you head outdoors. So we're about to open up that program on January 19th, right after our challenge. So if you want to be on our enrollment waitlist for that, maybe you are participating in our challenge this week already and you already know that this is the next step that you want to step into for your very own adventure era, I recommend that you join our enrollment waitlist, and you can find that at shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist. Okay, so you're going to learn even more about that program. I'm highlighting Sherry's story today. I have another exciting client story coming out next week to give you more kind of behind the scenes of different journeys people take when they join this program, where their adventure eras have taken them. And that way you can really kind of start to envision for yourself what that could look like for you. but I just wanted to put those things on your radar. And I'm very, very excited to share Sherry's story with you today and really dive into all the good things that she has done and created for herself as she has stepped into her very own adventure era. So, buckle up. This one's going to be a good one, and I hope you enjoy. And yeah, see you on the other side. All right. Welcome, Sherry. I'm so excited to have you here on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here and being here today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's so great. Okay, so you were one of my very first Backpacking Badass Program students. I think you joined us back in 2020. And it has been incredibly special for me to watch your journey over the years and to like get to know you. We've known you and get to talk with you a lot more, being one of our mentors now in that program. But it's been really cool to kind of watch you from that first moment you joined in 2020 to like where you are now. And I think your story is incredibly inspiring, which is why I was really eager to get you on the
Mm.
podcast. But before we dive into all the epic things you've done since 2020, I thought it would be really useful for everyone to kind of get some background on you and to rewind back to 2020 Sherry, before you had ever even joined the Backpacking Badass program, maybe even 2019 Sherry, before you had done any of that and stepped into this kind of like different era. So I'm curious, I know a little bit about your story already, but if you would like to share with our listeners, were you somebody who already saw yourself as adventurous before joining the Backpacking Badass program, or kind of like give us some background on were you a hiker? Were you a backpacker? What were you doing?
Um, well, actually, no, I really didn't consider myself adventurous.
Yeah.
I considered myself active.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I was fortunate enough that I did grow up spending a lot of time outdoors because I grew up, in the late 60s, the 70s, and we didn't have internet and cable and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
our only option was to be outside. So I did spend lot of time outside. And then my uncle had a family, he had some land along this river. So we basically had our own family campground down there. It was a private campground. So we would
Was this
spend,
in Iowa?
this was in Iowa, yes.
Okay.
Just a river, nothing spectacular about this river or anything, except so we would spend a lot of time down there, all summer, every weekend or whatever we would pack, and kids, you're just playing and doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But and even as I got older, I think he's finally sold that property. Probably, I mean, probably went down there for a good 20 years. I was going down there.
Yeah.
I even took my kids down there when they were little.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
but then as I got like older and I kind of phased out of that. I mean, I guess I was active. I either like power walked or
Yeah.
I taught aerobics. So I was the whole Jane Fonda leotard, leg warmer kind of gal.
I
I did
I could
that for
see this for you, Sherry, actually.
that was me. I was the
I
leotard
wish we
leg
we
warmer.
need a picture of that in the next time you speak at one of our
Oh
summits.
my God. I don't even think I have any pictures of that stuff or anything. But yeah,
That
I
would
did
be
that
so
for
good.
a lot of years. So I
Yeah.
guess I considered myself just being an active person.
Yeah.
And I was married, my ex-husband. I mean, we did, he had a canoe, so we would maybe do day trips, and I don't think we did a lot of camping, but we would do canoe trips during the day. So I guess I just consider myself active, but not necessarily adventurous.
Yeah, totally. And okay, so you were doing day trip stuff. Had you gone backpacking before? Because I think you had told me you had gone a couple of times. We're like,
I
when did
went
that start for you?
Well, I went backpacking one time when I was probably like about 15 as part of church camp. Because,
Okay.
like, when in my church, I think it was in ninth grade, part of confirmation was everyone had to go to church camp, for a week.
Yeah.
So, everyone, and then the following year, they also offered different programs, and one of them was a backpacking program. So I went
Okay.
on this backpacking trip,
What
and
did
I
you think
really
of it?
well, I don't remember a lot of it. I
Yeah.
remember I went to the Yellow River State Forest, which is where I go all the time now. But so I went there and I just, remember having my little canteen cup. And I remember finding these dogs on the trail that were had ticks on them that were just huge,
Yeah.
And of course there was this cute boy named Brad, but
Well, of course,
other than
Brad at
that,
camp.
other than that, I don't remember a lot about that trip, whether I really liked it or not, but
But it was like, maybe even subconsciously a little seed
yeah,
for the future,
I think so, because even I think, I don't know, several couple of years ago, I was cleaning out old photos and I found our group picture from that trip.
Yeah,
And
that's so
it was
funny.
funny. Yeah.
And then you did end up going backpacking. Tell me if I'm remembering this wrong, because I thought like I remember you going on a backpacking trip in like 2019 or something
Oh,
before you kind of joined the backpacking badass
yes.
program.
That was part of like when I first started kind of doing more adventures, because
Yeah,
a couple things happened, I guess, in my life that kind of changed my trajectory to being more active.
yeah,
One thing, but this was like back in 2007, my son was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. He was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. If anybody knows
yeah,
what that is, it's not fun. But anyway, so in part of my research on, I didn't know what that disease was, didn't know anything about it.
right.
So in part of my research in trying to help him was, diet and exercise and that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
started researching diet and I came across this wellness company that did retreats. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to go on this retreat and learn about, how to eat healthier. And they
Yeah.
also did like adventure as part of this retreat. Like the first one that
Hmm.
we went to was in Malibu, California. So
Okay.
we had this, these were like luxury treats. They weren't like a backpacking retreat. Like you rented this big beach house and we had our own chef that came in and cooked meals for us.
Yeah.
And but one of the things that we did was went paddleboarding in the ocean.
Oh,
And that's the
beautiful.
first time I'd ever been on a stand-up
Yeah.
paddleboard. I don't even think I stood up the whole time,
Yeah. That's
But
hard, especially on the ocean,
yeah,
honestly.
and I kept thinking I'm going to fall off this thing and a shark's going to eat me. But so that was, so that, and then I ended up going on a couple more trips with them.
Uh-huh.
I went to Costa Rica a couple times where we, just did zip lining and things like that. So
Yeah.
that company kind of
Kind of
planted
like
the,
ignited your
yes,
like sense
yeah,
of adventure, like wanting
yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
And one of the trips that they did was the trip to Peru, to Machu Picchu.
Mm.
And after I got back from that trip, it's like, you know what? I really, really want to do more of this, but
Yeah.
it's not really very budget friendly. Just,
Right. Yeah. The big
to do,
travels. Yeah.
yes. So I was just having conversations with my sister about how can I keep doing this, without breaking my piggy bank. And there was a local outfitter
Yeah.
that I had met through when I started running and things like that, and these adventure races that I was doing. And they offered trips. Some of them were like 4-day weekend trips of um, kayaking, camping trips. And
Yeah.
so that year I decided I was going to sign up for all those trips. I didn't care
Yeah.
what they were. I signed up for them all.
I love that.
And one of them was a backpacking trip up
Okay.
to South Dakota on the Centennial Trail.
Oh,
So
yes. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Your centennial first touch with Centennial Trail.
yes, with the Centennial. So that was my second ever backpacking trip. You
Okay.
know, I had done some, like maybe, well, my graduation trip, but anyway, so that was my second ever. Yeah, and that was before
The
I joined the
Backpacking
program.
Badass program.
Yes, because that was in 2019, I think it was. So that was
Maybe
my
like,
first, and I
oh,
didn't,
sorry.
no, and
Go
I
ahead.
didn't really know anything. I just remember going in because they provided all the gear. If you
Hmm.
needed gear, they provided everything. And I borrowed the backpack from my friend. And I remember going to his store with my Rubbermaid tote full of
Yeah.
gear. And I said, here's what I have. How do I fit it in this backpack?
Yeah.
So he goes, yeah, you need this, you need this, you don't need that. So, and it definitely wasn't anything ultralight. It was just basic, it's just basic gear.
Right. When you first start, most of us like aren't,
Yeah.
swimming in the ultralight stuff.
And
That's
I
how we
think,
dip our toes in
yes. And the backpack definitely was not big enough because I could not fit the tent in it. So I had to carry the tent
on the
on the
outside.
outside of
Yeah.
the backpack. So it was me and three guys on this trip.
Yeah. Tell me about that experience a little bit before we kind of transition, because that kind of
Um,
leads you into what you wanted to do next, I think.
yeah, and yeah, and it was, I mean, it was really, I remember really enjoying it, except I did get, well, after when we picked a section of that trail, there's a section of the trail that is also a part ATV section.
Oh,
So,
and just for background, anyone listening, Centennial Trail's in South Dakota. I just don't know if we said that, but
oh,
just
yeah, it's in South Dakota. Yes. It
yeah.
goes through like it starts in Wind Cave, Custer Park. It goes through Mount Rushmore and ends up in Bear Butte, I think is where the ending of it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was me and these three guys. And, you know, on that third, say it was the morning of the third day. I mean, we woke up and the weather was just crappy. It was raining, it was cold, you know. So it was about noon, and the other two, the guys, I mean, they decided that the weather was too terrible. And because one of them had slipped and fell on the trail,
Mm-hmm.
and they decided that, we were going to go home.
Yeah.
So I was just super, super bummed because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm out here to do this. And I was super bummed that,
Like, let's go, boys. Come
let's
on.
go, come on, man, be man, let's go. So anyway, so yeah, so we drove 10 hours, back home. And I
Yeah.
just remember 2 days after, that I was so sore. I had blisters, raw marks from my backpack. And
Yeah.
it was after that I thought, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, I better start learning more about what to do.
Right. I think we all kind of have like a lot of us, our story is that, I mean, actually, even, even if you go through our program, there's something different between like your very first experience and then being like, oh, these things are like starting to click for me. And these are the things I want to work on and like hone and get better. And I definitely felt the same way after my very first backpacking trip too. I was like, this was so hard and I'm so sore. And like my pack was so heavy. I got to dial it
Yes.
in.
Yes, exactly. But it's like, you know what? I knew I wanted to do more of it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That was like the thing that I felt too. I was like, but I loved this side of myself that like was out here doing it. I felt like so alive and all the things. So I remember when you joined our backpacking badass program in 2020, like you shared in our Facebook group community that a big reason for you wanting to join, besides like feeling more confident in the skills that you had and everything, but what it was more even leaning towards like feeling confident doing things solo. So maybe you can expand on that. Like what was it about solo adventures that felt so important to you at that time?
um, well, I think I consider myself, I'm really quite an introvert.
Hmm.
And I don't think it was so much as because I didn't have a lot of like a huge group of circle of friends, to go with and things like
Yeah.
that. So if I wanted to go, I was just going to have to learn how to go by myself
Yeah.
because I didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of people to, draw on to be able to go with me. So I just felt like I wanted to be able to do it confidently. So if I wanted to go, I would be able to go.
Yeah, I feel like so many people can relate to that, especially like as we get older, it can feel harder to make friends in the community, or you can't just, or it's hard to find people that want to go do this kind of thing with you. And
Yeah.
like having the knowledge and know how to do it on your own at least gives you the freedom to go, whether you can find people to go with or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still knew, had people in my circle from some of the other outdoor trips that I'd done, So it's
Right.
not like I didn't know anybody, but I just felt like it wasn't as much as I wanted to go, there wasn't going to be enough for someone to go with me every single time.
Right, exactly. I remember that too. Like I was really eager my very first year. I kind of got into backpacking and I thought those first group of people that I went backpacking with would like want to do every single trip with me, but it turns out that I was like more eager than most people. So I
Yeah.
ended up
That's
being
kind of how I felt. Hmm.
yeah, like I ended up being the person who was like, all right, I'm just gonna put all these plans on the calendar and then invite people as we get closer. Because I also found people had trouble committing like really far in advance, and it was easier to get them to join in on trips like more last minute. Um,
Yes.
but you get so much more freedom when you're like, I like going by myself, feel comfortable going by myself, and I love going with people too, if that is what ends up happening as well. It's kind of
Yes.
gives you
Yes.
options. What what like was there anything in particular that felt particularly scary about going solo or uncertain or anything that you were thinking about at that time when you were considering this?
Well, definitely like even on the group trip with these, it was a little bit scary
Yeah.
to be out there in your tent, alone. It's like, because I remember when we stopped at one of the trailheads, the guys went down to find water. So I was sitting there by myself, out in the middle of seemed like nowhere, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit, I don't know anything about this area, So,
Yeah.
and a couple times that I did do solo, just getting used to like sleeping out in the woods in your tent by yourself.
Right.
Every little noise,
You're
it's
like, what
only
is
a squirrel, but you hear every
that?
little noise and you're like, okay, just stop thinking about it. Just stop thinking about it. So just getting confident and getting comfortable knowing, especially like in my area, it's like, okay, there's nothing bigger than a squirrel out there, maybe a raccoon.
Yeah.
So it's like getting used to,
Yeah, getting your nervous system regulated to
yeah.
like something new that you aren't used to doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the beginning, I mean, I definitely had to get used to, being out there by myself.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that kind of like leads us into, so you joined, I think it was actually in January of 2020 that you joined the Backpacking Badass program. And I think you went on you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember your very first trip was around March
Yes.
timeframe, like a
Yes.
few
It was
months
March.
after.
Yep.
And tell us about that. That was your very first solo backpacking trip. Where was it? Maybe give us some background on
Yeah.
it.
Actually, I went to Yellow River State Forest, the same place I went when I was 15, but I went back there because I had gone on a couple like group trips there
Hmm.
because
Oh
I
yeah, so it was
joined
a
a
place
couple.
you were comfortable with.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
joined a couple Facebook, a backpacking Facebook group or something, and they did this annual, camp out, there.
Yeah.
So I went, so it's like, but that again, I really didn't know much, and that experience was, I borrowed sleeping bags, I think I had my own backpack then and my own tent or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like and this was like the end of November, like Halloween. It was like the last weekend, maybe the first part of November. So in Iowa, it was like 19 degrees overnight. So I
Yeah.
knew nothing about cold weather camping, what kind of sleeping
Yeah,
bag,
like its own thing.
its
Yeah.
own thing. So I really didn't, I just rented a sleeping bag and whatever, I mean, I froze to death and it was so cold anyway. So anyway, I went back there because I was familiar with it
Yeah.
and so that's where I went for my first solo overnight.
Which I think is so smart and something we talk about. Like, we talk about this a lot with people looking to do their first solo trip. Where like, take some of the like scary, uncertain feelings out of it and pick something you're more familiar with. Maybe you've day hiked there, like you
Mm-hmm.
kind of know where you're going. You can take some of the variables out of your whole trip, and that way you can just focus because it's already nerve-wracking, like going alone and spending your first night alone in the wilderness. Like that's already a lot. Like make it as easy as you can on yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too, because like, it's like I'm familiar with the area and yeah, so it turned out to be a good experience.
Yeah. So, okay, what was it like for you? Like, what did you find you liked being on your own? What did you learn from that very first trip?
I did. Well, I went like in March, so there was still snow on the ground, a little bit of snow on the
Yeah.
ground, but it was like 50 degrees out. So I thought, okay, this is a really good time. And the way it's kind of set up, they have like the camping area and there's like kind of like four individual sites kind of like scattered around. Well, the site that I really wanted, which was like a really nice flat one, still
Hmm.
had snow on it. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can't set my tent up there. So then I went to one of the other ones, but so it was a little bit slanted. So I just remember, sliding down all night long on my
Yeah.
sleeping pad. But it really felt, I don't know, empowering to be out there and I even brought like a real chicken breast to cook over the fire
Oh,
for supper,
fancy.
because it was, still cold enough. So
Yeah.
it felt really empowering to be out there and doing all that stuff on my own,
Yeah.
making
I
my
love
own
it.
fire and cooking and, setting up my tent. And it just felt really empowering to be out there.
Yeah. Was it just a one night trip, that first
It was
one?
just a one night trip. Yes, it was
Yeah.
just a one night trip.
That's awesome. I think that's a great start. Do you, I don't know if we've mentioned this. Do you mind sharing? Because a big part of your story and like what you've been sharing with women is like starting backpacking later in life. Do you mind sharing like around how old you were when you started backpacking?
I was probably, well, I know I was over 50
Yeah.
because that was another big, milestone in my life that kind of sent me on the trajectory. Um,
Yeah.
well, let's see. I was probably like 56 or 57 when I first started, when I did the Centennial Trail, that first trip,
Yeah.
you know.
I just think it's so important to note because a lot of people like that come to us, and you know this, you've been in so many of
Yeah.
our different events. It's like they ask me, am I too old to get started? Like what is this going to look like for me? And I just like want y'all to see Sherry because this is the tip of the iceberg for Sherry's story. We haven't even really dove in. But you guys are going to be blown away. Like your adventure era can start whenever you want to, essentially. So, okay, that leads us into we're in the midst of, our January event, the Your Adventure Era, creating Your Adventure
Hmm.
Era challenge. This time of the year, this is our 5-day challenge event that we host. We've started hosting every January. And for me and like many of my clients, and I know it is this way for you, but like now that we're already kind of adventurous people and we see adventure as kind of like a core value and how we want to live our life, and show up to our life, this adventure era is more like recommitting to it every year and just being like, what's that look like for me now? Um, let's talk a little bit about kind of this moment from this first solo backpacking trip and that ripple effect that first year had onto the years that followed. So that was 2020. Did you do like a whole lot more? Remind me of like what the rest of 2020 looked like if you remember.
Well, that was part of also when I started doing the county park
Yes.
things. And that was, so it was because I remember 2020. Well, of course, that was the year of the
Oh
pandemic, so
yeah.
it was kind of messed up for everybody.
2020 was a crazy year.
Yes. So I don't know if I don't think I did a lot that year, but I
Oh,
do
so
remember.
wait. This is just an interesting note that I didn't ask. I've never asked you before, but was your first solo backpacking trip before the like big everyone was in lockdown, or was that like
It was, yeah, because it was because it was the first part of March.
that's
And then they shut
wild.
everybody down like the end of March. Because
Yes.
I remember my granddaughter was born on March 25th, and I
Oh
could
my
not go see her
goodness.
in the
Oh my
hospital.
gosh.
So,
That's
yeah.
wild.
So it
Well,
was like just a couple weeks before that.
that's crazy. It's just funny to like think about those moments. Like I remember exactly where we were, like when Michael and I were on the road traveling full time that year and that month.
Yes.
Okay, so first backpacking trip, you started this goal. Well, had you already started this goal, or you kind of kicked it off in that year where you're day hiking every county park in Iowa?
Yeah. Well, I started it in, was it 2019? Because it was as a result of one of the trips with the outfitter that I went on.
Yeah.
That was the year that I signed up for everything and I didn't care what it was.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
one of the trips, it was just a weekend,
That was your year of yes.
that was my year of yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it was just a weekend trip of canoeing and camping at a county park, like an hour from where I live.
Yeah.
And they just had this selfie station there that, you just took a picture of of your group and whatever, posted it. Well, come to find out that it was like the 100th anniversary of the Iowa County Park System. So they were
Okay.
doing this promoting the county park system.
Yeah.
So they ended up having a list, and actually it was just one county park from all of 99 counties. So like
Yeah.
there's like actually like 1,000 county parks in Iowa, but this
Oh,
list was
okay.
just one park from each county. So I
Okay,
went to one
gotcha.
park from each county. So it was like 99 parks.
Yeah.
And that was just because it's like, I've lived in Iowa my entire life, and I've barely been out of my corner of the state. I live way in the
Yeah.
northeast corner. So it's like maybe the capital, which is kind of in the middle, but there's the whole other, eastern side of the western side of the state where I've never been to. So
Yeah.
I thought, you know what, this is a really good way to start exploring my state.
Yeah.
So I think that
I love
first year
that.
I did all the ones, in
Really
my
close.
yeah. So I think I did like 33 parks that first year, because
How
some of them
many
were, you know,
It took you like 3 or 4 years to do all of them?
Yes, yes, because like then as they started getting further away,
Yeah.
like to the other side of, it would be like a 4 hour drive just to get to, a park. So then I would have to make weekend trips out of them to be
Yeah.
able to do them.
Cool. I love that. That's like another really great example for people. Like, even if, bigger adventures outside of your state feel like not accessible to you, maybe you're like really busy or and you're taking care of family, like even setting goals like this where it's like, okay, what's a cool way to like see even just more of my state or more of my city like that I could incorporate into my calendar year because I feel like all of those things kind of lead us to the next thing too in its own way. Like they just help us keep the momentum and you get to see all these beautiful places that would have never been on your radar.
Yeah, and I did. I realized, Iowa does have it's not just corn and soy field,
Right.
corn and soy. And I learned a lot about traveling solo, got
Yeah.
more comfortable with car camping and just being able to use, my stove and set up my tent and, those kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. Did you do any more backpacking trips your first year of getting into backpacking?
I I don't think I did.
Okay.
I'm trying to think when I did the Superior Hiking Trail. I don't remember what year that was.
I
Was
have
that
it written
in?
down as 2021.
Okay, yes, I think that was my next. I think I probably maybe just did weekend trips to Yellow River because they have like a 13-mile backpacking loop that
Yeah.
has like four different, and I think I did a lot of just weekend trips up
And you
there.
had a new granddaughter, so this makes sense.
Yes.
So this is great. So that's like Sherry's adventure year era zero, or actually she had some adventure era before that, but with backpacking and doing the county day hikes. And then 2021, I remember you started talking about section hiking the Superior Hiking Trail. And you were doing that in 100-mile sections. So did you do multiple trips in 2021 to
I
the
think,
Superior Hiking Trail?
yeah, I think I did one in the spring and one in the fall. And then
Yeah.
the next year I did it in the fall to finish my last section of it.
In 2022, which is also the year that you did rim
Yes.
to rim in the Grand Canyon. So that, for perspective, is like a 25-ish mile hike done in a day with like over 5,000 feet of gain. It depends on like which trail specifically you take, but big feet basically. Like Sherry's pushing her limits on like
Yeah, pushes
tell
my
me
limits
yeah, tell me
in
what you
more
thought
ways
about
than
doing
one.
that. That was the most miles you had done in a day, right? With the rim to rim?
Yes, probably. Yes, I'm sure it was. Yes, because I think one day on the Centennial, when I did my redemption hike on the Centennial Trail, I think one day I did 20 miles, but I think that was after
Yeah.
but yeah, that was by far the most miles I'd done in a day.
That's nice because it kind of like one thing that I talk about a lot with you guys is like sometimes we set the big goals not because they're like really that comfortable or easy, but it helps set the bar of like what's possible. And then if you ever find yourself in like
Hmm.
it sounds like in a situation on the Centennial Trail where you have a 20-mile day, you're like, I've done more. Like
Yeah,
I can
yes.
do this.
Actually, no, I spent, well, before this, I ran for a lot of years. So
Yes.
I'd done like 3 marathons. So
Okay, great.
I
You
knew what
had that bar a little bit too.
I had that bar a little bit already. Yes.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
it was a different, I mean, hiking
In the
is a
heat in
different
the Grand
animal,
Canyon, yeah.
is yes, different than running down the strip of Las Vegas, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And with the elevation gain, it comes with its own flavor of challenges than running 24 miles. But 24 miles
Yes.
comes with its own flavor of challenges.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so Adventure Era in 2022. So you guys can kind of like see like how Sherry's like kind of building and stacking skills. And then what I think is really interesting is in 2023, you get to, like this full circle moment where you're actually, so you were section hiking the Superior Hiking Trail, which is 100, is it 100? How many miles is the
It's
Superior?
the whole trail is, well, it's 310 miles.
300. Okay. So you
Yes.
had been like tackling kind of like through hike-ish miles with the Superior Hiking Trail. And then you came back, and then Centennial Trail is 124 miles. And again, that's in South Dakota. And that was a big through hike. And you did that one solo now. So
Yes.
one that you
Yes.
came back to, you did it with that first group of guys, and then you came back to do it solo. So tell us a little bit about about that experience for you.
Yeah, that was, yeah, my redemption hike. And it was starting to plan, some of my own logistics because, driving out there was like 10-hour drive, it
Yeah.
took me 2 days to drive out there, and starting to plan the logistics of, and even like hiking that trail, because like there's certain areas that you can't camp in. So
Yeah.
just some of the logistics of, challenging myself on that part of it.
Like resupplies and
Yes,
like
resupplies and things like
planning.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Through hikes just in general, like it helps to have some lower mileage backpacking trips under your belt because like through hikes have their own element of like extra logistical planning to them than
Yes.
other trips.
And I remember getting to the section that we stopped on, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I was just dreading it because I knew how awful it was. And of course it was the ATV section. It had been raining, huge mud puddles, just the mud was sticking to the bottom of your shoes. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know what? And I met, I don't know how many ATVs that day that, I thought were going to run me over, and I just thought, it seems like I breezed through that section. It's like, you know what? It isn't really all that awful. It was kind of awful, but it still didn't seem as awful as it did the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you probably had grown so much, like just
Yes. Yeah.
as an adventurer and like your grit and your like tolerance for, just
Hmm.
challenge had grown exponentially since that very first backpacking trip. Also, sometimes like I find this, I don't know if you notice this too, Sherry, but like sometimes it can really matter like the energy and people you have with you. And in this instance, you were by yourself. But like when you were on that very first trip, if people were like feeling more tired and it was like they were more drained, it kind of can rub off onto you to be like, oh, I'm dreading this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not that
So,
it bothered me, that really didn't bother me that it was me and three guys. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I felt like I could stand my own. So it
Yeah.
really didn't bother me that it was me and three guys.
Yeah. And then this time you're out there solo doing your redemption hike. And then so that was 2023. 2024, you did a lot of more things than just this. But one of the notes that I had is that you ended up joining us in our intermediate trip on the Adventurous Reinvention Experience, which is another one of our programs. But what we thought was really interesting, like me and Kelly were talking about this, is that one of your bigger goals with that trip was you have had all these years building your solo confidence and like doing all the things solo is you wanted to start signing up for more group trips because it was a little bit outside of your comfort zone now at this point, which I think is really interesting because I always often coach people on being comfortable going solo, not being more comfortable going in groups. So maybe tell me more
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, well, that trip was very eye-opening for me. And it's not that yeah, it's like I said, I'm kind of an introvert. And I guess, just the way I grew up, in school, kind of getting bullied in school a little bit. So you just kind
Yeah.
of like go into yourself a little bit, when you have a
Right.
lot of those kind of experiences. And it's not that like, I think I realized I have kind of like a group limit also
Yeah.
with how many, 6 or 8 is fine, but sometimes you get 10, 12, 15. It's like, okay, then I get a little bit more.
Overwhelmed.
And yeah. But I want to, it's like group trips, benefit me because you learn so much from being, from other people and being in a group, and group experiences are fun, so I needed to challenge myself, you know, to start, you know, not doing more group trips. And
Right.
and actually when I think back to that trip too, it did open my eyes to, I think, one of the reasons why I kind of struggle when I get into bigger groups. And one of the mind drama that you talk about, it's
Yeah.
like I was having there was a couple incidents in particular that I remember I was having a lot of mind drama in that
Yeah.
situation in on that trip. And I was thinking, why am I having this mind drama? I mean, like
Yeah.
what we were saying, I'm in this beautiful place,
Yes.
in the mountains of California, which I've, never been to before. And here I am pouting down the trail because I'm in my
Right.
own head.
Yeah.
And
So
I think
relatable.
I finally figured out, kind of what the reasoning or what some of that reasoning is behind. It just comes from like my marriage and past, to get a little bit personal here, it's
Yeah.
like, I sometimes get this anxiety where I feel like I can't escape in a situation, so it's like,
Right.
okay. So I have to work on, that trip was really made me realize that about myself. So, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so now it's like, maybe I can move forward and have, not be so in my head when it comes to some of these group trips.
Yeah, and I feel like, I've been seeing this in you too, like a lot of the stuff over the years. You're doing solo, you do this trip. I also think it's kind of been in preparation to like help you step more into like leadership role because I've been
Mm-hmm.
seeing you step more and more into leadership roles because you kind of joined the 52 hikes like what was your title for a while? It was like you were a group lead or something in the
Well,
52 hike.
I still am. I'm the leader for the Iowa chapter of the
Okay,
52
the
Light
leader of
Challenge.
the Iowa chapter.
Yes. But there was also, they did a spin-off of that, of the over 50 outside,
Yeah, they
where
did
the
that like
first year
one
I was
year,
in the
right?
program.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first year I was in the program, and then the second 2 years I was a mentor in
Yeah.
the program.
Exactly. And like it part of, stepping into a leadership role comes with its own like slew of mind drama and challenges and things that you have to do and be more responsible for other people and like managing
Mm-hmm.
emotions. So like being in bigger groups is like one thing and I definitely had to learn that too, like managing different personalities along with your own personality and like
Mm-hmm.
not internalizing or personalizing everything because everyone's kind of in their own heads and so we all have to like learn how to balance all the different feelings and thoughts going on. I think a lot of women can relate to that because I think some people get nervous about group trips, especially when they don't know the other people, because of that.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to get along with these people? Is it going to be too much for me? So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
the
go
whole,
ahead.
am I going to be too slow? And,
Oh, yeah, definitely
am I
that.
not going to have the right equipment? Just all those kind of things when you
Am
start
I
going
gonna
in.
look ridiculous?
Yes.
Are people gonna
Yes.
wish that I wasn't there,
Uh-huh.
like because I'm slowing everyone down? Like we come up with
Mm-hmm.
so many things we tell ourselves.
Yes. Oh, yes. Some of my trips, I definitely had those thoughts.
Yeah. How did you feel? Because I know you did a couple more like group trips after that moment. Did you feel like you were able to open up a little bit more and have,
Oh, yeah, because I think I did the Yellowstone trip after that. And I remember toward the end of the trip, we were having a group share or whatever, and I did, open up and say, okay, this is my deal. If you see me pouting off at the trail, or
yeah.
something, this is my deal, because I'm just telling you or whatever. So it
I
did
think
make
that's
it did.
so important, actually. Like, I want to just note this because, like, I think sometimes we're so in our head about like a, coming off a certain way or not fitting in. And I think one of the most powerful things like anyone can do if you're overly worried about any of that is like communicate it first to
Hmm.
everyone. Like, hey, if I do this, this is what it means. Or I'm a
Yes.
little bit nervous to be the slowest one. And I'm really excited to be here, but I'm just telling you, like, I just feel a little bit nervous. I feel like it brings
Yeah.
everyone in on the conversation to support you instead of them wondering, like, oh, does she just not like me? Like,
Yes.
what's going
Yes.
on?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's super smart. Yeah. And so the Yellowstone trip, how did the group take that when you said that to,
I mean, they were all supportive. They were, nobody shunned me or anything like that.
yeah.
They were just all, hey, okay, thanks for letting us know, so it
Yeah.
turned out
Like, we're
great.
not going to be like, oh, Sherry hates this trip. She just
Yeah.
needs some like introvert time. Like, that's totally
Yes.
fine. Yeah. I can relate to that. Okay, 2025, I think that was last year. So I think this is a really interesting year to highlight before we kind of like jump into what your focus is for this next year and your next adventure era. But 2025, you got to go to Patagonia and you also got to do some really unique volunteer opportunities. So
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, the Patagonia it was as part of being the chapter leader for the 52 hike challenge for the Iowa chapter. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the opportunity because the 52 hike, they partnered with this travel company, that did trips.
Yeah.
So we could say, okay, pick a trip and, that's on this list and you can just go do it,
Yeah.
and if you get enough people signed up, then we got a, break on the pricing.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I always said, said, I always wanted to go to Patagonia. I just liked the sound of it. And I just wanted to, because I'd been to Peru and I was like, I really want to go to Patagonia. So when
Yeah.
this opportunity came up, I don't know, I had to jump on it.
I love
So,
that.
and I ended up going, Carla, who's one of the founders of the 52 Hike Challenge, she ended up going also. So it was the two of us who were, I mean, we did have a guide,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
kind of the two of us, the leaders of the group or whatever. So
How did you like that? Like, how was that experience for you? Because this is a big group, I'm assuming, a bigger group of
it was,
women.
it was actually, I think there was nine of us counting
Okay.
the guide. So it was a
But people are
manageable.
looking up to you for like leadership and all of this stuff, which is,
Yeah. And I think the scariest part for me actually was traveling over
yeah,
there. That was the scariest part for me
yeah,
was, traveling into foreign countries where I knew little to no Spanish.
right.
And they definitely, because when I went to Peru, I don't remember it being quite that. And they were more English speaking than
Yeah.
when I went to Santiago. So that was the more scarier part for me was
How
the
do you
traveling.
navigate that for yourself when you're like feeling really, you're like, okay, this is something I really want to do, but I feel really nervous about this piece. Are you just like constantly negotiating in your brain as you're
Well,
doing the
yeah.
thing or
And
like,
I remember researching like, okay, how am I get because there were other people in the group talking about staying at an Airbnb or whatever. So I remember researching and like on the airport, it was talking about getting taxis. It's like, don't do this, don't do this. So it's like, okay, I got to remember. So as soon as I got off the plane, I got to remember, to go here and get the taxi and not do this.
yeah.
And so when I finally did get to like my Airbnb, I mean, I couldn't check in till like 3 o'clock, and I was there at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like, well, what am I going to do for my day? So she was. I mean, I was lucky enough that she let me drop my bag off. So then I ended up, walking around the square for a couple 3 hours before I could. Sorry, my cat is having a fit. He
He's
watches. So
exploring
I,
the desk behind you.
so he, so I ended up walking down the square for a few hours before I could, check into my room. And
Yeah.
then, she didn't speak English. So we're using Google Translate and trying to
Yeah.
write things down, so we can communicate to get, you know. So if I would definitely do things different if I traveled like that again.
Oh, nice. Like just not stay at Airbnb or what do you mean
Well, yeah,
specifically?
or just find some place because then I had another flight right away the next morning. So
Yeah.
I would have stayed someplace closer to the airport because then I had to
Mm,
get up like at 5 o'clock in the morning when it was pitch dark and stand out in the street and wait for my taxi to take me back to the airport.
yeah,
And trying
totally.
to book my taxi. Everything was in Spanish. So I'm like, how do I change this website to English? And just all those
Yeah.
kind of things I was trying not to get too upset about.
I totally understand this. I also find like the travel parts of trips, especially internationally, to be the most like where I have the most anxiety because I'm just like I hope everything
Hmm.
runs smoothly and we can communicate clearly. I remember one of my very first like solo international trips was I want to say it was like 2014. I went to Thailand and this was back before Google Translate stuff existed. And I remember I printed out my hotel from Google Maps or MapQuest. I don't know, something like that. I
Yeah.
printed it out. So I had a hard copy and I showed up in Thailand and I went to the taxi queue because I remember people saying the taxis were safe. And I just handed them the paper. I was like, I need to go
Yeah.
here. And then
And
I
even,
realized, but Cherry, I realized I had printed it in English.
oh my gosh.
And so this guy didn't know what hotel I was trying to go to because it's all in English instead of in Thai. And so he takes this paper and he goes down the line of taxi people and just talking to everyone and
Oh my
everyone's telling
gosh.
him advice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to get to my
Yeah.
hotel?
Well, and
And then they
then,
just put me in a taxi and I just trust. I was like,
yeah.
here
And
we
when I was flying back home, I got to the airport and I get all the way to like the gate or, in through all the way to and come to find out that my flight was canceled. So I got
go.
all the way through baggage, all the way, and they're like, how did you get through here? We canceled this flight like the night before.
Oh my
So they're
gosh.
all
Yeah.
wondering how I got as far as I did, And I'm like, here it is, 10 o'clock at night. And because it was an
Oh
overnight flight,
yeah.
it's 10 o'clock at night. How do I, and the ladies at the kiosk, I mean, they were fine. They ended up getting me a hotel and all this kind of stuff. And I had like a personal escort from the gate, or yeah, from where we were supposed to board all the way down back through the airport. I mean, we were taken back stairs and everything. I mean, he was waving his badge to get me through here and there,
Nice
all the way out to
VIP.
the street. And the same kind of deal. They just give this driver the hotel where he's supposed to take me, and he didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Spanish, So I'm
It's
just
like one of
trusting
those
him.
moments you're like, cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool,
cool.
cool.
Thinking he takes me
Nice,
to
nice.
to the back side of the hotel. I'm like, no, I think you need to go around to the front side of the hotel. So, but it's like, I'm thinking to myself, what good is it going to do to get me upset about any of this
Right.
stuff? So I was
It
just kind of
definitely
like going
doesn't.
with the flow. But then
Exactly.
the next morning, it was the best flight ever home because half the people had taken different flights. So that flight was
Mm.
pretty much empty. I mean,
Oh,
every
that's so
person
nice.
in the plane got their own row of seats,
Yeah,
so I was able
that's
to just spread out and
lovely.
take a nap. So it was the best flight ever coming home. But
And I think like for anybody listening that's like, nope, now I don't want to ever internationally travel. I think like the point to drive home here is like these experiences, they make us stronger and more resilient for all the like hard things, and it also ends up being so worth it. And funny stories, like I don't know, sometimes I think about my life and like I just want to be able to tell stories and like have these fun adventures where there is like these odd things that are happening. Like I just feel like it gives so much flavor to your life. You're like, and then I was in this taxi and he just kept asking me
yeah,
for toll money. And I just like
yes,
hope I ended up at my hotel. And
yes,
thankfully it worked out. But you
yeah.
know,
That trip definitely did. I definitely did learn
and
a
you
lot about
learn
traveling.
things, how you want
Yes,
to do it differently. And sometimes the only way you can learn things is by doing them and then deciding, oh, there could be a more efficient way to do this.
yes.
But so okay, that was Patagonia. That sounds like it was an amazing trip. Was it the W trek or
It was the O Trek.
okay, the O trek?
The O
Um,
Trek.
yeah, so did you love it?
I
Was
did.
it
I loved it. It was great. I did love it. Hmm.
I love that. And then after that is when you kind of got into the volunteer opportunities, which I think is really unique. And I want to highlight here specifically on the podcast because I think it's a unique entry into adventure like that you wouldn't have expected your journey to take you to this place. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more
Yes.
about what opportunity popped up for you.
Well, two of them popped up. The first one was Moose Watch on Isle Royal National Park.
Yeah.
And I had been to the park twice before. Twice, yes. One on we backpacked, and the other one was a kayaking trip.
Yeah.
But so, and people kept talking about moose. I mean, I'd heard people talk about Moose Watch before, but I really didn't know what it was. So I got to researching it, and it is, you just traipse around the island looking for moose bones, and so I thought I wanted to go back to the island, but I just wanted to experience it in a different way. So
Yeah. And you had
that's,
to apply, right? Like you had to
yes, you have to
apply
apply.
and they were looking for certain skill sets
Yes. Yes,
and
they
you
want
were
you,
able to
because,
like be like, yeah, that's me. I fit this criteria.
yeah, because, they definitely want you to have backpacking experience, because it's like you're not staying, because you are backcountry camping. You are not staying at the established campsites. You are
Right.
just, going out and finding a spot to camp. And we ended up staying at the we stayed at we the first night the ferry was delayed, so we didn't get there till late in the afternoon. So we ended up just that first night just hiking a couple miles and finding a spot. And then the next day we hiked to a more permanent spot and then just stayed there the rest of the week in the same spot, where there's several other teams out there,
Yeah.
and some of the other teams might have, done a different experience. They might have moved every night, just depending on what section of the island that you were supposed to be surveying.
Nice. And you said you did two of those in 2025?
And the second one was the canoe trip
Oh, the
up
canoe
into
trip.
Canada for the caribou monitoring
Yeah.
project. That was the
That's so
second one.
cool.
Yeah,
How did
that
you,
one
I
was.
guess like people would wonder, like, how did you find these opportunities? Are you just like subscribed to their email lists?
Well, the IOL is, yes, and I've heard other people talk about it, and they kind of talk about it on the island quite a bit because that's
Yeah.
the big thing of the island is the moose wolf study. That's been going on for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, a long time. So,
Yeah.
they have lots of information about it on the island. But the other one was part of the came about from my kind of like kayaking side of my life.
Yeah.
Um, it was started out as to be a trip through the outfitter that I go to quite a bit,
Yeah.
that they were going to organize the trip. Well, it turned out that they couldn't get quite enough people to make it like as a team for him. So
Yeah.
then there was
You
three of
joined in on
us.
another one.
Yeah, so we ended up joining another team. So, we still had, I think there was what, seven of us on our team, I think, that went out.
Nice. How did the two different volunteer experiences like compare to each other?
Um, well, the canoe trip was definitely more remote,
Yeah.
because we paddled. I mean, first you drive 12 hours to Canada, and then you're in this remote little town, and then they drive you into the wilderness, and then you get in your canoe and you paddle deeper into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And so it definitely was. And, we just had to find a spot that was decent to put our tents up on. I mean, it had so much, the boreal forest. I don't even know what you call the landscape, but it was just all this really spongy moss that was
Yeah.
just, and all
Almost
this,
like boggy.
yes, boggy kind of stuff. So there
Yeah.
wasn't there wasn't a decent place to put your tent up anywhere. So that was a
Mm.
challenge, trying to find a place to put your tent. And
Yeah. That's cool. I just think that's such a unique experience. Like, did you feel in those trips because like at this point you're like 5 years into your journey, like adventurous journey, backpacker journey, all of those things. Did you feel like you were able to show up to those experiences really confident in your own skill sets, like doing the things and really could just show up fully to the volunteer experience?
yeah, I did. And I learned, and especially with the canoe trip part, the canoe
Yeah.
trip one. I mean, I don't have a lot. I mean, I do have some experience with canoe trips, but not quite as much, not
Mhm.
quite as much. But I was still confident in my backcountry skills as far as, being able to take care of myself in
Right.
setting up my tent, making my meals, all that kind of stuff. I felt, confident in myself.
Yeah, and then you can just like really lean into like learning the new
Yeah.
things that you're doing with all the volunteering things.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, the caribou one, to learn, how they do the survey and,
Yeah.
collecting the data and things like that. So that was really educational from that
Yeah.
aspect of it.
That's so cool. I remember when you told us like last year, it was like maybe May or April that you were doing these things, and we were just like, wow, that's so rad. Like, where I was like, the things Sherry gets herself into each year, like, I would have never like put this on your vision board, like when you first
Yeah,
signed up and
me neither.
So, okay, a little bit of background on Sherry. Like Sherry's actually, I mean, we've already done a ton of background on Sherry, but Sherry is also a mentor inside of our Backpacking Badass program at this point, and you can kind of see why. Like she's really leaned into getting more into backpacking and honing her skills, and she's like always growing in a unique way, even beyond what like I do or Kelly does. Like she has her own path that she's following with a lot of this stuff. Um, the one question I would love to ask you, Sherry, is like, what does it mean to you now? Like you're starting to step into, like you come to some of our events and speak at our events, you're on this podcast with me. What does it mean to you to be a visible example for women, especially those starting later in life that are stepping into their own adventure
Yeah.
eras?
I don't know. It's kind of humbling because I guess I'm just being me, so
Yeah,
I just kind of like, I don't know, it really is, rewarding and, to know that people might be looking up to me, but like I said, it's
yeah,
just, I don't feel like I'm just being me in a
right.
way
Yeah.
now.
You're just being an example of what's possible by like
Yeah.
being yourself and like following what you're curious about, what is lighting
Yes.
you up, and not letting like the fear and the self-doubt like be something that prevents you from moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like at our last or was it maybe 2 years ago when we first invited you to the Solo Summit? I remember on a coaching call we were talking and you were like, I'm nervous to speak. And I'm like, you have so much to share, like so much value to share. So I
And
just
I
think,
and it's kind of interesting because I've done my little 99 my tour of Iowa park thing.
yeah,
I presented that a couple times locally,
yeah.
just about that trip specifically, because for a couple county conservation offices here in Iowa. So
That's amazing. I love that. And I just think like sometimes we need like a variety of examples because it could be like one thing that clicks with your story with somebody else's story that like really inspires them to go for it. And I think that's what you've been such a good example of is like doing it like even if you're a little bit scared or like you're not quite sure what the next step is. You're like always just focused on like what is drawing you in, not necessarily like because it's the most impressive or something. You're like, oh, I would like to
yeah,
explore my 99 state parks. I'm going to just do
yeah,
that and see where it takes me. And ironically, has taken you some very
it
impressive
has.
trails.
Yes, it's taken me some really nice, some really beautiful places
Right.
just in my
So
own backyard.
what do you wish more women knew about what's possible for them right now?
Oh, wow. I
It's
don't
a big
know.
question.
But that's a big question. What do I wish they knew? That it is possible, you know,
Yeah,
that it's not impossible. Like I said, I've taken a lot of baby steps to get to, what I never thought was possible. I mean, I never thought that I would go to Patagonia, I
right.
never thought that I would go to Peru. So, I just never pictured myself, doing some of the things that I've done.
Yeah, like that's a period of 5 years. Like I can just
Yeah.
it's just so fun looking back at it now and being like all of these things that you have like done over the last
Yes. Oh
five
my God.
years.
Yes, when I think about that trip, my first trip to South Dakota, I mean, I did some things in there that it's like, okay, Sherry, that is definitely not leave no trace now. It's like I when I look back at some of those things, it's like,
Very first instances. Yeah.
yes, yes. It's like, okay, you've learned a lot since, those instances.
Yeah. And you've grown because you've been willing to like take that risk and chance on yourself. So I think this is a really good segue. I know that I'm really curious to know, and I'm sure the people here now having being invested in your story a little bit. What do you see as the theme for your 2026 adventure era? Like, how do you see yourself defining this year? If there's any skills that you want to develop or, specific adventures you're planning, like what's on your
Yeah.
radar?
Well, retirement is on my radar for
Oh,
20.
oh gosh, this is going to be your explosion year then.
So my venture, yeah, so I'm really, wanting to kind of lean toward, work my way toward that way. So I think
Yeah,
2026 is going to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say laid back, but more local adventures and, because I,
yeah.
want to prepare myself, and be financially more ready to, take that
Take on
step.
retirement. Yeah,
Yes. So, I think they're still going to be adventures, but they might be more local adventures that I've been wanting to do for
yeah,
a long time. Like I've explored a lot of county parks, but Iowa still has like 50 state parks that I haven't been to.
yeah,
So, it might be just a lot of weekend trips to state parks.
yeah. I
Taking
love that.
taking my granddaughter on her first camping trip,
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I love that too. I think that's like such an important note too. You like have growth years some years and some years you have just like I just need to make things easy on myself and explore locally or I want to do stuff like that. Because I feel like last year was kind of like that for me. I did still have some growth goals with the climbing, but I didn't do a whole lot of as much traveling as usual because we had
Yeah.
Oliver, our puppy, and it was just like harder to take him places. And so I stayed local a lot more with like
Yeah.
hiking
And
and
I
backpacking trips and stuff like
and
that.
I do already have Moose Watch on my books again
Oh,
for
nice. Cool.
for May of 2026. So
Yeah. You're
that's the
becoming
only
a
thing
Moose Watch regular.
yeah, that's the only thing that is, solid for 2026 so far is Moose
Yeah.
Watch.
I love it. I'm gonna let the year unfold as it does. I'm sure it
Yes. I
will
mean, I have
be.
lots of ideas in my head on what 2026 is going to look like, but
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it. Okay. So I always like to end these sessions in kind of like fun rapid fire questions, just so we can get to know you a little bit better. So, Sherry, what is your go-to trail snack?
I go to, oh, Trader Joe's dried mangoes.
Oh, yeah. You know,
They're
a lot of
addictive.
I feel like you're either like a diehard Trader Joe's ma dried mango fan or you're just not. Like, I hear so many people mention it, but I'm not a dried mango fan, but
Yeah. Well, that's the only, yeah, they're just,
some
yeah, yeah.
people love them.
I know I have to control myself when I have some.
That's how I am with like nerd clusters. Okay, what's your favorite piece of gear you can't live without?
Um, the cooler cloth.
Oh, yeah, that's true one. I also think something that's interesting about Sherry is she was one of the first people in our program who was like very diehard about quilts. Are you
Mm.
still like into backpacking quilts over
Well,
like
I do still have my quilt, yes. And I
have
was
you
just looking for,
transitioned?
well, no, not totally. I still have a sleeping bag and it just depended because my
Depends
quilt,
on the circumstance.
yes, my quilt is a 0 degree quilt. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
not going to take that in the summertime. So
Mm.
one of my goals also for 2026 is to go winter camping. So
Oh,
I'm probably
nice.
going to bring that thing out here hopefully this month.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Um, if you could safely see any animal in the wild, what animal would you want to see in person on the trail?
Um, a bobcat.
Ooh, a bobcat.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have those, and actually, we have those here in Iowa. And I would just love to be, because my son-in-law deer hunts, and he has seen a few when
Oh,
he's out.
nice.
And I would love to be hiking and just see one.
Yeah, that would be really epic. Have you seen on your wolf and moose, did you ever get to see any wolves?
We did not see. I've seen moose, but no, I did not see any wolves.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, one of the animals I would like love to see in
Yeah,
the wild is the wolf. Okay. Are you a trail sneaker or a hiking boot kind of woman?
I'm more of a boot kind of woman.
Okay. Is there any reason? Like, what's your
No, I
reasoning
don't
behind
know.
it?
I just when I first started, well, I think my first pair of ones that I really or my Astral, they're kind of like water shoes, but they're like a hiking boot, but they're kind of like a tennis shoe, but they're a hiking boot.
Yeah.
And from the time I put them on, they were comfortable. So, and I think being part of the 52 hike challenge, we got a lot of good deals from Oboz hiking boots. So,
Yeah.
I kind of tried on a couple pairs of Oboz but I'm still just prefer hiking boots.
Yeah. I kind of feel like when you find a shoe that works for you, you like,
Yeah.
you just keep going for it. Like, I've been the same with once I found Ultra Lone Peaks, I'm like, these are my shoe. Like, there's no reason for me to change it up. Like,
Yeah.
this is the shoe that I like. Okay. Would you rather never have to filter water again or never get blisters again?
Probably never have my bunion again,
Oh,
which causes me blisters sometimes.
yes. Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't had a lot of problems with blisters on a couple of my hikes, but I think my
When they're
bone,
a problem, they're a problem. And then, like, usually they're
yes,
manageable.
yes, yeah,
That's how I feel. Like, I always feel like I never get blisters until I go to the Grand Canyon. And Grand Canyon always just wants to bring them out of you. Like, the dirt and the grit and the heat. It's like,
yes.
for what you do, they're like, I'm coming for you. And you're like, oh my gosh. So,
Because I think on that Centennial Trail hike, I think I lost my toenail off of that one.
oh my gosh.
At I think the very first one, or maybe it was the second one. One of them I lost my toenail over.
That's brutal. I did not know that. Okay. Sherry, before we officially close things up, maybe like you could give us some advice on what advice do you have for women that have been told by society or otherwise, or they're thinking to themselves quietly that they're too old to start backpacking?
Gosh, that is just not true.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
what I
just
was just
not true.
expecting you to say. Yeah.
Yes, it is just not true. I mean, yeah, I'm a good example of that. And like I said, I don't think I really started until I was at least mid 50s, when I really started all this stuff.
Yeah. And you just
So
got to like start small and
yeah, and
build
it
from
is.
there.
It's hard to because even sometimes I have that thought when I think of some of my trips. I still have that thought. It's like, am I
Yeah.
really, am I really going to be sometimes I might be the oldest person in the group,
Right.
or when you start to see some of these, some of the trips that I've done before, now they offer specific trips for people over 50. I'm like, I just, it's like when they start offering trips for, people over 50, so it's just not, you know, start small and you can get there.
Yeah, and don't count yourself out. I think like something you mentioned in there was like really important. So I like want to highlight it too because you said you might think to yourself like, am I going to be the oldest one in the group? And I can think of so many women I've had
Mm-hmm.
conversations with who almost have counted themselves out of like signing up for one of our rock climbing retreats or one of our adventurous reinvention experience programs because they have that thought like, oh, I might be the oldest one. That it like that's okay. Like it's okay if you're the
Yeah,
oldest
it's
one.
okay.
And don't count yourself out because you might have the most amazing time by letting yourself be uncomfortable with that thought a little bit and like leaning into it.
Yeah, I mean, there have been trips where I've been the older person in the group, and I
Right.
just try not to let it bother me because I
Yeah.
can keep, I can hike just like everybody else.
Right. Exactly. So I think this is great, a great place for us to end. Sherry, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. I think it's just a really great example of like how your adventure era can kind of grow and expand as you're just getting started from that very first year
Mhm.
into future years and like whether you get into taking it in leadership roles or not. Like I think your story is just like a great testament of like all the different possibilities that can exist within that. Where would be a good place if people are like really interested to connect with you? Where could they reach out to you? What is the best place?
Well, I'm not a real big social media person. I do have
Yeah.
Instagram. It's
Mhm.
just at Sherry J SHERRYJ 402 is my
Okay. And I will
Instagram.
link that in the show notes.
Yes. And or otherwise I'm also, like I said, the chapter leader for the Iowa chapter of the 52 Hike Challenge.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll also provide a link for
yeah.
52 Hike Challenge stuff.
Or if
Is the
somebody's
Iowa
interested,
chapter like specifically they would like learn more about that through the 52 Hike?
yeah, you can go to like the 52 Hike Challenge website, and I think there's a link in there for the Facebook, and then you have to go into the Facebook group, and then you can find the different chapters, Or if somebody, is really interested in my email or something, we can somehow figure out.
Yeah, you can email us at support at
Yes.
sheepandalpine.com and we'll connect you with Sherry if you want to connect more personally. So amazing. Thank you so much, Sherry, for being here. I always love catching up with you and hearing your story.
Well, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.